Okay, hello and good morning everyone. Welcome to JFD Traders Espresso with me, Darius Anucauskas. Today is the 15th of July 2019, so welcome everyone. Welcome to this Monday's morning session where we're going to have a quick look at the markets, a few of the charts, the usual stuff. But before we do that, as always, let's quickly have a read through our risk disclaimer. So, the content we produce does not constitute investment advice or investment recommendation, should not be considered as such, and does not in any way constitute an invitation to acquire any financial instrument or product. As always, a few seconds for you to read the rest and we can continue. Okay, so also just a quick mentioning of our JFD YouTube channel here, where you can go and have just subscribe basically in order not to miss any of our videos that are coming out on a daily basis, and also check out our JFD website, specifically the JFD research page, where I believe you can find a lot of useful information, useful analysis. So you might find something interesting here for yourselves. So yep, feel free to check us out. But right now, let's quickly jump into the charts. Now, the first one I want to touch on here is Bitcoin. Looking at this, basically, it's not looking good here for Bitcoin. I mean, after kind of hitting the area just slightly above the 13,000 level, it reversed and started moving lower. You can see that now Bitcoin is back below the 200 EMA here on the 4-hour chart. Previously, as you can see, like in the beginning of July, it acted as a good area of support, and previously it was acting as a good area of support. But now the crypto is below this 200 EMA. So this, of course, creates this somewhat of a bearish atmosphere here a little bit on Bitcoin and on some other cryptos as well. But what you could do now here and watch some key important levels. So of course, one of the important ones will be around here near the 9,650 zone, which is marked by the lowest point of July. Of course, so far we may even establish a new lower point in this month, but for now that's the lowest point. You can see that the crypto is kind of moving towards that in that direction. Today, if we look at the pivots, which, I mean, sometimes it's a bit irrelevant, but just kind of to mention that in terms of the pivot points here, I mean, you can see that this level here almost coincides with the S1, so that's why this area could be a nice potential zone for a nice good test. So of course, that's again, this is if we put more emphasis on the pivot points. But like I said, this is, I mean, these are cryptos that we're talking about, so these might move randomly, chaotically. So for now, again, like I said, we are targeting the downside, but initially we will only aim for this 9,650 zone, approximately around there. And if that gets wiped out, well, I mean, that means it could be opening the path towards even lower areas, and this is where we could target the area around the 8,930 zone, near the low of the 18th of June, or even going further down. But for now, let's not get ahead of ourselves too much. By the way, this chart is from Coinbase, so you probably, it depends on which one you're looking at. I mean, you might have slightly different pricing, but roughly it is approximately around there. So in order for us to, let's say, to at least kind of aim for higher levels again, or at least kind of, let's say, become a little bit more bullish, I would say, well, ideally we would like to see a push back above the 200 EMA here on the 4-hour chart. This would place the price above the 10,760 zone. But to be honest, we will probably take a very conservative and cautious approach here and wait until we see a nice good push above the 11,450 zone, 50, 60, something like that. This way we will aim for slightly higher levels than, of course, targeting this little high here of the 12th of July. But if that fails to withhold, of course, then the The more important one will be around the 13,200 zone. So that's basically the highest point of July so far again. So that's why, guys, for now, long story short, for Bitcoin, in order for us, let's say, to start considering the upside, at least we need to see a push above the 10,760. But in order to get slightly more comfortable with higher levels, ideally a push above the 11,450 60 zone. That's what we need before we could aim for higher levels. Again, I do understand that it's quite a big of a move here, but to be honest, it's better to be safe than sorry. And like I said, in terms of the downside, for now we're just targeting this little level, and then we'll take it from there. If it breaks, then yep, further declines could be possible, where we will aim for the 8,930 zone. Jumping into gold very quickly. So this one, I've looked at this one previously last week, and basically I was talking about some of these levels, but to be honest, I mean, gold kind of ended the week a bit unchanged, well, slightly in the positive territory, of course, a bit of in a positive territory, but still it's struggling to get past the June highs. I mean, it keeps getting closer to that, but it's kind of struggling to get above it. So looking at this 4-hour chart, what we could do here is draw something. Basically what I wanted to show you here is potentially we could see something like this forming here. It's a nice triangle formation, could be, so keep your eyes on this one. I mean, this could in a way work out nicely. So if this, let's say, continues to kind of play out this triangle formation, then we could see gold kind of coiling up for a while. And that's why ideally what we're going to do here is we're going to take more of a cautious approach here and basically wait for a breakthrough through this formation first before we kind of aim for any further directional moves. So in a way, long story short, guys, if we see a push above the upper side of this triangle, then and a break above the 1424-25 zone, approximately around here, then yep, we will aim for the 1439-40. This is a very good potential area of resistance, but if that fails to withhold, then yep, further acceleration to the upside is possible. In the similar kind of idea is here for the downside. In order to kind of aim for lower levels, ideally we need to see a push below this, a break below this this lower side of the triangle, and then of course ideally just for that better confirmation, a break below the 1380-82 zone, approximately there, marked near the low of the 1st of July. This is where we could get a bit more, or should I say the bears could get a bit more excited, and we could see this one sliding further down. Of course, also if we see a drop below the 1382 zone, also keep an eye on the 200 EMA here on the 4-hour chart. I mean, initially it could provide a little bit of support here, but if it continues to if the bears kind of continue to dictate the rules, then yep, further declines are possible, and this is where we will aim for the 1358 zone. So for now, be very careful with gold. It's stuck in this one, in this little potential triangle formation. Let's see how this is going to play out and which way that's going to exit. Jumping into euro dollar very quickly here, I talked about this one last week, and basically I kept talking about this 1.1275 level, this barrier that keeps on holding euro dollar to the downside. I mean, you can see that we did have a few overshoots here, but never kind of not even close. It didn't even close the 4-hour candle. So that's why, guys, for now, still for us the same game plan remains. We need to see that nice, good, strong push above the 1.1275. Ideally, well, at least a 4-hour candle would be good. I mean, if we see a close above this level, at least a 4-hour candle, and then we'll potentially start considering higher levels. For now, this is kind of flirting with this 112.75. If it continues to hold and we see euro dollar sliding back down here, well, keep your eyes on the 1.1244, because as you can see, previously acted as a good area of support. But if this time it breaks, then, well, I mean, we could see a revisit of this tentative upside support line taken from the low of the 23rd of May. So good potential area for a test, but again, we'll also be very careful around here, because if it holds, we may see a nice rebound here and a push back up. So that's why, guys, for now, keep your eyes on some of these key levels. And as I said, on the upside is the 1.1275, and on the downside is the 1.1244. Jumping into USD CAD very quickly. So looking at this picture here, you can see that it continues to hold here to balance around this 1.3030, and to be honest, actually it found we need to probably adjust this level a little bit, because let me shift this one a little bit, and this is the kind of the area, this is the level that it kind of found support near, which and that's around the 1.3020 zone. So basically it failed to kind of drive below this. It continued knocking on that door of the 1.3020, but didn't kind of really break it to the downside. So what we're going to do, of course, slightly below that, we do have the 1.3015 area, approximately around there, and just going to show you what that level was in the past. That was basically this one right here, and let me just zoom in here a little bit. So this is near the lows of the 25th of October, so good potential area of support. So what you could do here is, of course, if we see a nice good drop below this 1.302015 zone, approximately around there, this is where we could start considering the downside again. I mean, ideally we would like to see maybe a daily candle close here below this area, and only then kind of start aiming for the, of course, the psychological 130 level, which could be a nice good target, but slightly below that we do have the 1.2970 area, approximately around there. So good, also a good level for a test. So just let me show you what that level was here in the past. That was near the lows of the 24th of October. So that's why keep your eyes on that one, guys, and let's see how this is going to play out. In terms of the upside, well, in terms of the upside, it's a difficult one, because I mean, still this barrier for us remains a quite important one, the 1.3145. This is kind of the level that we're keeping a close eye on. So that's why, from the, let's say, from the shorter term perspective, what you could do and how you could play this one out would be, maybe if you could keep an eye on this little high here, the high of the 12th of July, which was Friday, last Friday. So a nice good push above this 1.305455 zone could also place the rate above the 21 EMA. So from the shorter term perspective, in a way, this could increase the chances for USDCAD to kind of travel higher a little bit here to test the 1.3095-91 zone, approximately around there. But then, to be honest, the more important one would be this one, the 1.3145. So that's why, guys, this is, in terms of like the short term upside, this is the level that we're going to start considering higher levels, because still be very cautious, because at any point this could reverse and just drop back down again. So that's why, like I said, with the upside, we are going to be very, very careful here, because also, just to mention, kind of the overall, it's still below this downside resistance line, so there is still a lot of downside pressure on this pair. But again, before we could consider further declines, we need to see that nice good clear drop, and ideally maybe a close of the daily candle below the 1.3020, and only then we could aim for slightly lower levels. GBPNZD, now very quickly on this one. Actually, before I jump into GBPNZD, GBPUSD, just let's do it the other way around. So it had a nice good run here. I mean, the pound strength, last week the pound strengthened against the US dollar. It managed to travel above this key area of resistance that I talked about in one of my videos, the 1.2560, and now it's kind of still balancing above it. So it still has some room here to travel a little bit higher, because we do have this nice tentative, of course, but still a downside resistance line which could get tested. So again, I'm not saying that it might fly sky like rocket here and travel up further up here, because like I said, in order to kind of aim for further higher levels, we need to see a nice good break of this downside line before we could consider like the higher levels in the near term. So for now, what you could do is just kind of say, like I said, monitor this downside line. If this makes another good push to the upside, that's good news for the bulls, but again, they might get held here near this downside line, so all eyes are on that one. But in a way, if this pair continues to trade above the 1.2560 zone, then yep, this increases the chances for it to travel towards this downside resistance line. If the pair drops below the 1.2560, now again, we will take a very cautious approach a little bit here, but in order to kind of, let's say, get comfortable slightly, get with slightly lower areas here, a drop below the 1.2507, something like that, below this little low here of the 11th of July, this could be ideal for the bears. We could see maybe this one sliding back down towards the lowest point of this year, near the 1.2440 level. So quite an important level this one is, and to be honest, the highlighted area probably should be around here, because this is the more important area to watch out for, because if this gets broken, then I mean this puts GBPUSD in the negative zone for the year. So that's why for now, guys, keep an eye on some of these levels, and like I said, that's why we're going to keep an eye on this level here, the 1.2507, before we could kind of consider further declines. So but for now, there is more chances for this one to push higher, but again, the downside could get limited due to this downside resistance line. So keep your eyes, sorry, the upside could get limited due to this downside resistance line. And last pair for this one, for the session, is GBPNZD. Now this is kind of slightly the opposite. I mean, you can see that if GBP was stronger against the US dollar, it's definitely not stronger against the New Zealand dollar. So you can see that now the pair is back to its key area of support here near the 1.8705. Now we need to see a nice good clear break here before we could consider further declines. We can see that this morning we did have a break already. So currently the pair is balancing on this level. If this makes another push lower, then what we're going to do here is initially we'll target today's S3, which is around the 1.8627, something like that. But slightly below that, we do have the 1.86 level. So keep an eye on that one as well. Of course, this move lower, of course, would confirm a forthcoming lower low, and overall, I mean, this is not looking good for GBPNZD. As you can see, since kind of the beginning of May, this has been sliding lower, and you can see that it already kind of lost significantly, basically, after hitting the psychological 2 level here, after having this nice spike here to the upside, and then it quickly retraced back down and drifted lower. And now you can see that, yes, I mean, it is testing the 1.8705. Of course, in the shorter time frames, the pair is slightly oversold, but again, I mean, we could have said that the same thing here. Let's say in the beginning of June, we did have a nice correction here to the upside, but still it drifted lower. It broke below the beginning of June lows here, and continued to push south. So for now, like I said, we are going to continue observing the downside here, but especially we need to wait for, we need to see a nice good clear break and a move here below the 1.8705, and then we will we'll continue, like I said, targeting slightly lower areas, and then we will aim for the 1.8627 or the 1.86 level itself. In terms of the upside here, if this makes a nice good push above the 1.8832, something like that, then yep, we will aim target this key area of resistance near the 1.8950, and then we'll take it from there, see if it actually wants to travel further up. If it does, then we will consider that downside resistance line that I talked about. Okay guys, I hope you found it useful. Thank you very much for sticking around and watching it till the end. If you want to join me later on at my Traders Tea Time, as always, that's 13:15 GMT time. For now, I hope you have a wonderful trading day, and I'll see you later. Bye bye.